embarks from one side of this world to the other, then you may.
6 years ago, this happened at a boxing event in Dublin, Ireland. And what does this have to do with Tyson Fury not being able to come to America to be able to defend his world heavyweight titles? Load up that clip. We'll get into what happened there in just a second. But heavyweight champion Tyson Fury is barred from the United States of America. And I wonder why mainstream places like Skip and Shannon, First Take, ESPN, and none of these mainstream people are talking about this when they was, they had him fighter of the year just a couple years ago. When there's headlines like these: Tyson Fury banned from entering the United States, confirmed his Love Island brother Tommy amid link to mob boss Daniel Kinahan. U.S. ban costing Tyson Fury millions in WWE pay-per-view money. WWE not talking about Tyson Fury's U.S. ban due to alleged mob ties. Mob ties? Tyson Fury's mobbed up more than a little bit. Let's get into it. Yeah, before we get into it, shout out to El Prophet. Check him out if you're in the YouTube space. He makes a lot of great content about like old school gangsters, mob, old mobsters, present street guys. He does a lot of that content. So check him out. I'll put a link in the description and all that. But let's go ahead and get into it. We'll just let it roll. I'll probably speak on some of the boxing stuff, but we're going to pick up where we're left off. I think he titled it The Kinahan Clan. So let's get into it.
Hello there. I'm just after getting off the phone with Daniel Kinahan. He's just informed me that the biggest fight in British boxing history.
And people who don't know or are uninformed, that is one of the heavyweight champions of the world. That was blasphemy. Tyson Fury, and he's talking about a upcoming belt that he was supposedly had scheduled with Anthony Joshua that was supposed to happen after the Wilder fights, but obviously that didn't happen. But let's go.
Has just been agreed. Get up there, my boy! Big shout out, Dan. He got this done. Literally over the line. 2-fight deal. Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua next year. One problem: I just got to smash Deontay Wilder's face right in the next fight. And then we go into the Joshua fight next year. So there we are. The Gypsy King versus AJ is on for next year, but there is a hurdle in the road called the Bronze Bomber, aka the Knockout King, and I will get onto him and knock him spark out, and then we got on to the big fight. So big thank you, Dan, for getting this deal over the line. All the best. God bless you all. See you soon. Peace out.
That was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, thanking his business partner, a guy.
He's not undisputed. He's unified, but whatever. Because the difference is you have to have all the belts. He has all but one.
I named Dan.
Actually, no. He has one of the major titles, and Usyk has the 3 titles.
Daniel Kinahan.
Obviously, we had the situation last week when the US authorities announced that Daniel Kinahan was sanctioned. What was your relationship with him, and what's your relationship going to be going forward?
I've just had a million questions about all this rubbish before, but like I said to them, it's none of my business, and I don't get involved in other people's business, so it doesn't really concern me.
But was he involved at all in this fight?
No, no involvement.
Do you still speak to him? Is he still somebody that is close to you? Will you speak to him?
He's not my father, let's just say that.
This is Tyson Fury dodging questions about his former buddy and business partner, the same Daniel Kinahan. So who's this guy that is seemingly so important to the man who made boxing white again? Daniel Kinahan is the boss of a literal crime family straight out of Ireland, and he, his father, and his brother each have $5 million rewards from the American DEA for their arrest. And $5 million is the same amount El Chapo himself had on his head when the DEA extracted him from Mexico. In April of 2022, the U.S. government finally succeeded in getting Dubai, where the Kinahans are holed up, to freeze some of their assets. And as we saw, Tyson Fury and others are trying to distance himself from their old friend in the boxing world, who's now being talked about as one of the world's top distributors, or at least Europe's top distributors of yayo.
Doesn't really concern me.
But was he involved at all in this fight?
No, no involvement.
Now, just a month ago, after Fury knocked out challenger Dillian White, he was filmed trying to kick a taxi cab when he was drunk, and he was hanging out with a guy named Robert Kelby. And Kelby is the guy in this video. And Robert Kelby served one time as a director of talent for MTK Global, which was the Kinahan boxing business. And they advised Tyson Fury along with Billy Joe Saunders, another British famous boxer of recent times, and Scottish light welterweight world title holder Josh Taylor. Now, needless to say, MTK Boxing has been shut down since the legal news
Guy doesn't look like a criminal at all.
has begun to tighten around the Kinahan neck.
The United States Department of State is pleased to announce a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the financial disruption of the KTCO or the arrest and convictions of its leaders.
Why would Ireland produce such a high-powered crime group? Well, the IRA is from there, but we'll get into that later. But more specifically, the economic...
As home to 9 out of 10 of the world's top global software companies, Ireland offers a world-class ecosystem of both local and international tech talent.
The Celtic Tiger era was fueled by open borders in a small country focused on exports. If you bought a computer in the 90s, for example, the translations of the instructions to the software in all the different European languages was almost certainly done by an Irish company.
They chose Ireland not only because of our competitive tax rates, but because...
And yes, Kinahan is behind that too.
Because it has a stable, pro-business government with ready access to a young, dynamic, highly educated, skilled workforce.
Now, Irish press has reported that the Kinahans have a near monopoly on the import of specifically Peruvian cocaine, the best, to Europe. And they control about a third of the continent's entire cocaine supply. And Europe, for quite a while now, has been by far the biggest source of cocaine profits, at least for the people from south of the border here in Mexico. Now, back in 2016, the Kinahans got embroiled in a war that might have had its source a little bit earlier with the rival Hutch family gang across Dublin and Spain, resulting in at least 22 homicides, which might not sound like a shocking amount of murders for those used to hearing about American crime, or especially the numbers coming out of Mexico. But for Western Europe, where access to firearms is extremely limited and murder rates are much, much lower, it's a big number. And of course, there's billions of dollars at stake and possibly some political stuff. Now, like I said, Daniel Kinahan's brother and father joined Danny Boy with $5 million bounties on their heads But why so much? Why such large rewards on the level of seemingly far more destructive gangsters like El Chapo? Perhaps because of the pretty shocking and high-profile nature.
The man in drag and Kevin Flatcap Murray enter the hotel and begin searching for Daniel Kinahan. Shots are fired in the lobby and people began to flee the hotel.
Now, what the Eurotrash lack in criminal volume, they somewhat make up for in stylistic flair. That was February 6th of 2015. It was like a scene one could imagine highlighting a Guy Ritchie, Quentin Tarantino joint venture. The Regency Hotel in Dublin was holding the pre-fight weigh-in for the WBO European lightweight title. Boom! At least 4 masked men, 2 on Army-style helmets and bulletproof vests of the Irish Federal Police Emergency Response Unit all bust in toting AK-47s into the ballroom of the prestigious hotel, probably looking for Daniel Kinahan, who wasn't there. Now remember, AK-47s aren't easy to get. They're not available at the corner store in the United Kingdom. Now, unlike attacks on American grade schools, the Regency attack had only one victim, an ex-boxer called David Byrne, who was probably a top enforcer for the Kinahans and a suspect in a few homicides over the years. After the attack, they started looking at the security camera footage. Looked like there were 2 more people helping the 4 that burst into the ballroom, including a man disguised as a woman. The attackers escaped in a Ford Transit van, which was later found torched. Now, the aftermath of this shocking, especially by UK standards, crime gets pretty interesting. The victim, David Byrne's funeral, was a big news event, and because of the length of time, his family and Irish tradition were going to have their wake at his house before the funeral, or at their house. Special security measures from the Irish Federal Police were put into place, and the funeral passed without incident. It was heavily publicized. Now, as for the investigation into why all this happened, well, right after the shooting, a call was placed to the British Broadcasting Corporation saying that a sect of the infamous Irish Republican Army had carried out the attack because the victim, David Byrne, had been involved in the killing of a guy named Alan Ryan a few years before. Alan Ryan was an IRA guy that was involved in a lot of stuff, including extorting drug dealers, which of course is what the Kinahans are. So then a guy named Patrick Hutch, whose brother Gary Hutch was probably the victim of a Kinahan-sponsored hit in Spain not long before, was charged with the murder at the Regency, but then all the charges got dropped. To date, nobody's been convicted of David Byrne's death, but a Sinn Féin politician, and Sinn Féin is the political wing basically of the IRA, and if you don't know, the IRA and the Sinn Féin fought for Irish independence from the United Kingdom. As recently as I think the early 90s, they were still blowing up department stores and killing regular British citizens in downtown London. They were, before a lot of the Middle Eastern terrorist stuff ramped up, the IRA was probably the most active terrorist group in the world, along with another European separatist movement, ETA, the Basque movement. So this Sinn Féin politician is currently awaiting trial, I guess, for being involved in setting up the murder of David Byrne. And remember, he's connected to this Alan Ryan IRA guy who extorted drug dealers. And this politician from Sinn Féin, a guy named Dowdall, and an odd asterisk to the case, or maybe it just shows what kind of people these are. Him and I guess his father's being tried with him, but they were buying a motorcycle off the British version of Offer Up. And the guy came over, and him and his father, this politician, grabbed the guy, took him in the garage, and waterboard him to extort the motorcycle out of him. And so he's awaiting trial now for the murder at the Regency. And now, not Patrick Hutch, who I said the charges were dropped against, but a guy named Jerry the Monk Hutch, who was the uncle of Gary Hutch, who was killed in Spain, and he's the leader of the Hutch clan. He's going to face trial for the murder of David Byrne, this infamous crime into Regency. And the Hutches were one-time partners, but now deadly rivals of the Kinahans. So what's the whole backstory of this Kinahan-Hutch rivalry? Why did the Regency Hotel hit happen? And most importantly, just who are the Kinahan clan and how did they make it onto the list of world's most powerful criminal groups from this little city in a small island that's a sub-part of England, not a particularly violent part of the world? And those questions take us to the sun-drenched coast of Spain, Mirabella to be exact, where the most successful British gangsters often use as a home or operations base, including the Kinahans, who had over 100 properties worth about $1 billion seized by the British government not long ago, who they then had to give a lot of it back because the Kinahans' money laundering operation is so expert. Or so the story goes. More in the next part on the Kinahan clan. Our prophet, Ireland Dope.
Now, obviously, living in the United States of America, you're innocent until proven guilty, but Tyson Fury's guess not being charged with anything, but he has some ties to this gentleman, and let's be clear, there's over 500 people that's on that no-fly, that ban list that's here in America. And don't worry about it, because we will, in part 2, tie up the Kinahans in boxing and their corruption and how they corrupted boxing with their power. I just wanted to lay down a foundation of who they were first. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, make sure you check out the homie El Prophet. And thanks for sliding through. Peace out.
When last year I spent more money on spilled liquor in bars from one side of this world to the other than you made